we've talked about the Eastern Conference, and we got to the Orlando Magic, and I thought that's where we're going to round off that discussion. But speaking of Giannis Antetokounmpo, he is a player where I haven't seen him play Joel Embiid in the playoffs, and I'm not ready to quite say that the Bucks clear Philadelphia with their new acquisitions this offseason. Now, he was asked in the last few days whether or not it was out the question of him leaving the Bucks in a few years, because through his career, he's admitted, I've thought about going other places, even right after winning a championship. He said I could have took the easy route and left to go to a place like Dallas or heck, Brooklyn maybe. That would have been so OP. Or Miami, of course. You guys are both Miami fans, and he says, I think anybody you ask that question that plays basketball, if he said no, he'd be a liar. It's a team. He then talks about the Bulls because that's the team he was asked about. It was a team that won multiple championships. It's a team that one of the greatest players, if not the greatest player to ever play this game, played for. So it's no brainer. Everybody would love to play for Chicago. I think that's
I know
ironic.
about everybody. I know about everybody.
Yeah, I think that's ironic because when you look at them the last 15 years, their biggest free agent acquisition is Carlos Boozer, after his days in Utah. So I have a hard time necessarily
No,
agreeing with him.
Demar. I'll take them. I'll say Demar's a
I
big.
keep forgetting Demar, man. Yeah,
Yeah, I feel like Demar's a big one than Carlos.
yeah, I would agree. But before this last season, I think people viewed Demar under a really dim light. He wasn't
Oh
even a
yeah,
top
his career
75
was
player
on.
according to ESPN.
Yeah, his career was on the downward trend, and then coming to this team was really what revitalized it.
Hmm.
And another thing, he was having a career year in MVP conversations, and then people were talking about like, damn, if DeMar wins the MVP, imagine what that looked like for LeBron's career. And it's like, how did he make it in this conversation? But it's true because people are gonna use, oh, LeBron beat an MVP, a player that won an MVP throughout. Like, genuinely, this year was just a fever dream for him because I didn't expect this at all. And then Lonzo went down, then Caruso went down, then Zach was dealing with injuries throughout the year. Patrick was down for the entire year. Like that amazing start they had, Iron like throughout the second half of the season, it sucked that, and he was still keeping up the same level of play he was before. It's just that overall team just kept falling apart. So there's like at the time, I had the Bulls as the fourth best team in the East, and they dropped off hella because of all the injuries and stuff. And you had the unfortunate luck to play the Bucks in the first round without Lonzo. So I understand why it looks as bleak, but I think next year, even though I really felt like I should have traded Vooch this season, but overall that was the team I wanted Rudy to go to.
Yeah, and Bulls fans, I've seen a lot trying to conjure up this idea that the Nikola Vucevic trade was not a loss. They lost that trade so badly. And
I
like
don't
I
think so
get
because I don't think Wendell would have developed into the player he is now if
I
he
was
was
getting
there.
to that. Wendell was not going to be the answer at center because both their history with injuries and their certainly, I mean, they're dude, what's the word I'm looking
Question,
for?
questionable player development.
No, not their player development. Their staff for like managing injuries. I'm blanking on top of my head.
Oh, the trainers.
Yeah, their training staff is very questionable. You can look at Larry Markkinen, who was missing time constantly, goes to Cleveland, plays a near full season last year. So I don't think Wendell would have been the answer. But this last year, Wendell was better than Nikola Vucevic, and Franz Wagner. The
Yeah, but you gotta look at the
I like
roles.
Pat Will a lot, but that eighth overall pick they absolutely nailed, and they still have a 2023 first rounder from Chicago. It's top four protected, maybe it's unprotected. They I understand the Bulls would not have gotten making the Nikola Vucevic trade was the right move, but they lost it badly because that was a perfect series for him versus Milwaukee, and he was a disappearing act outside of game two where he was making shots. Where, hey, look, those pick and pop jumpers were there from against Brook Lopez, and he just wasn't making them. And you brought him here to be the number three so he can make those shots, opening up the game, and adding a layer to the offense that very few offenses can replicate given the big man position. And he didn't do it. And the regular season, too, the jump shot wasn't there. The touch was basically non-existent from three-point land, and defensively he holds them back, whether or not you want to admit it, because when those guards and Lonzo, Caruso, and Io aren't just holding him over, he's gonna kill you as well. He's not that high-level rim protector. He's barely adequate on that end.
That's the whole thing. I was looking at the Bulls team the entire year. That's why I really wanted Rudy on here because like even like people were talking about the spacing would be a little bit worse. Uh and even if when you get Patrick, well no, you had to trade Patrick in that trade, so you don't know who was gonna play the 4-2. So you don't know how bad the spacing was gonna get. But at the same time, just like they weren't getting points off those possessions where Vooch was shooting threes anyway because he was shooting that bad this year. So I don't think that makes that big of a dent in their offense. If anything, it makes it better because Rudy Gobert is Well, if there's one thing he's good at on offense, he's one of the most elite lob threats in the league. And DeMar DeRozan is a very underrated playmaker. You put an elite lob threat like that with somebody like Lonzo Ball, that's gonna look amazing. So I added to the layer he adds to any team he goes to defensively while being at least an elite lob threat. And to be honest, Utah was not whenever he sealed the guards in the post, like all he just needed to catch the ball and lay it up, they weren't passing it to him. So at least just giving him that dynamic too would have been crazy. So I do think it would have been a bigger upgrade, but I don't think one Chicago is this big free agency destination. I'm sorry. People hate those winters. And two,
Giannis is used to it though.
I think Giannis, with how he's talked about like Milwaukee and the entire league, I don't think he's one of those guys gonna stay loyal his entire career. I don't think so. If especially if they're not able to win again within the next 3 years, or at least the end of this contract.
We're
Like,
about to jump into that.
yeah,
You said that he's gonna leave if they don't end up winning.
I think he just genuinely wanted to have that one where he's just like, yeah, I stuck you through and I won one with my, and he got very lucky that it did happen with that year. But hey, it happened, you have one. But I don't think he loves Milwaukee the same way like people thought Dirk loved Dallas, or I'm gonna say Kobe asked for a trade. Um yeah, I just don't think he loves that. I can't even say Tim Duncan because Tim Duncan was about to leave the Spurs too. So I just don't think he loves that team as much as people would want him to or think he does. But he's generally, so I think if the opportunity does present itself and like things in Milwaukee is just on a downhill trend, I definitely see him packing up shit.
Now let me say something about this Bucks team. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't go back to the finals, and the reason why is Chris Milton. I was saying this yesterday in the Pick a Side pod, and Joel and I got into a heated Chris Milton debate. I have Chris Milton right outside the top 30 next to Zion Williamson. I think he is a tremendous talent and an amazing fit next to Giannis. And without him, we saw in the second round this Bucks offense can be deplorable from the perimeter. And as great as Giannis Antetokounmpo is, as much of a contender as he makes the Bucks, and with him healthy, you have a shot no matter what. He's going to his 10th season, and to expect him to
It's
continue
been 10
playing,
years.
yeah,
God
this guy's in
damn.
No, though.
13.
Still in his late 20s.
He's
Wow.
20,
He's
turning
27.
28. Yeah,
Yeah, he came in young, but I'm like, damn, it's been 10 years. That's crazy.
and Middleton is 31. What I'm getting at here is he is so necessary to the way he initiates their offense. We saw Drew Holiday, he just disappears at times on offense. For as good of a perimeter defender as he is, I mean, there are moments where he
He's
can't
a
make a layup.
fantastic offensive
He's in
player
his
too.
hand.
He's really efficient. He
In
just
the
like
regular season, he's
yeah, he's
averaging
just
19 and 6 on great efficiency. But you'll notice he gets in his head in the playoffs, a little bit like Eric Bledsoe, for as great a defender as he can be. And you got to keep in mind, this isn't a guy that's going to go out and guard KD. He can't. That's why they had PJ on him. He's not going to guard LeBron either. He's only 6'3", and sure, he's thick and he can get into guys. He's a
yeah,
great post defender.
the top team in the East. There's not really a lot of guards that you have to worry. Is the forwards you have to worry about, and Drew
It's
can't
really
guard the
just
forwards.
Trey. Yeah, he's not guarding those bigger forwards. And so what I'm getting at here is, without a healthy Chris Middleton, who just re-injured the same knee in the first round of the playoffs as he had earlier in the season, he's now 31 years old. If he regresses to a level where he's not the same Chris Middleton that can drop 40, be a very good defender, a more than capable playmaker, and a pick and roll initiator, this vital cog to what makes the Bucks a special, unique team that we all love is going to start to fizzle. Because I don't know how you can replace Chris Middleton if you're consistently picking in the late 20s each year. You're just going to be snagging role players like Marjon Beauchamp, and you're lucky if those guys turn into a capable 3-and-D wing, with where you're going to be in the draft. It's always going to be 24, maybe 22, 26, 29. And let's say how it is, Milwaukee,
And their cap space is fucked too.
much like Chicago, they're committing so much cap to Giannis and Drew. They're not really going to have the versatility to add big name free agents either. So, what is the pathway as Milton regresses and potentially has a peak or just a prime shortened due to injury if he's not going to be in the picture
Yeah.
as a number two option on a championship team? So if that is gone, I don't think the Bucks can make it out of the first round with
But
or at the second round with how deep this Eastern Conference
the
is.
thing is I don't think we think about players the same. I think we think about players the same like it's 2008 again, in a sense that the medicine's gotten to the point where 31, even though you've had injuries, at 31, your prime can extend to about 34. So I don't think Chris will regress to a certain level yet, because one, his game doesn't rely too much on his athleticism. It requires a technical skill a lot, and he doesn't provide. He already doesn't provide a lot of rim pressure as it is, and he does a lot of his work outside in the pick and roll and outside out of the post. So I don't really expect a huge drop off from him. But at the same time, in a healthy Eastern Conference, that team wasn't and wouldn't have been enough to make the finals. Like they were one toe away from not making it in the first place. So it's honestly very, and the East has only gotten better since then. So it's very honestly, even though I think they were a better team last year than they were their championship year. But even with losing PJ,
But without Brook Lopez as well, with him missing most of the
that's
season.
another thing. He's getting older up in age there, and there's not a lot of players that can replicate the whole verticality plus at least close
And
to really efficient 3-point shooting. Like there's just so many. Yeah, they're getting up in age, and two, I don't know what they're gonna do. They're gonna have to create a whole new philosophy, to be honest. If they're gonna rebuild this team, and that may take another 2 or 3 years, and you don't know if Giannis is willing to sit through that either. Because again, players like Giannis, you don't know when that prime's gonna end. When it relies on athleticism to that extent, even though he's getting a little bit more skillful, and I think the rest of his career, he can consistently be a 20-point per game scorer if he works out of the post, even with his athleticism declining. Genuinely, the biggest thing that makes Giannis as great as he is athleticism, and you don't know when that's going to drop off, especially for somebody at his size. So you're gonna have to
6'11".
maximize the amount of time you have with him, and I don't think, again, when you're a small market team, it's really hard to do, especially when your player starts to get older. If you're the
Yeah,
Lakers or something that could constantly just switch out plays because everybody wants to come fucking play for you, that's cool. Not when you're in Milwaukee.
yeah. For me, I was pretty tight when Giannis didn't come to Miami when his contract was
I
about to
didn't
be
see it
up.
happening. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't see it
You
happening.
didn't see, yeah. No, I could understand that point. For me, it's hard to identify because I agree with both of you guys. You know what I mean? I agree with like the fact that I think the Bucks might be headed in a downward trajectory with Chris Middleton aging, coming off another injury, Drew Holiday showing he cannot be the number two guy offensively. Um,
That's another.
how
If Drew just played to his regular season self, they would have made the
yeah,
conference finals.
but I get that, but like it shows you, the player is going to show you who he is, and when he's performing in the regular season and not in the postseason, then he's showing you exactly who he is.
Very
So
true.